Sup Squares, welcome to my review of The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. I played this game I played the GameCube version of the game. It took me about an entire year to beat this game. To help me review the game, I've asked somebody who's already beaten the game before. It was a while ago, but he still has pretty good opinion of the game. So, my brother, Pac-Man9371.
Hello.
First off, let's start with my history of the Zelda series. So I played a good majority of the Zelda games, mainly the 3D ones. Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess. I beat Skyward Sword like halfway through. The only game I never really made progress on at all was Wind Waker. That's the Zelda game I never really touched. I'm very familiar with Zelda. I almost beat Breath of the Wild, but I was trying to accomplish everything else in the game before I beat the final boss, and I just never got to it. So, anyway, so for my initial thoughts of Wind Waker, so I mean, I'll also get into this in the meat of the video, but a first initial thought, I'm gonna say it was a good Zelda game, maybe even great. I'll say great. Where do you land on that, Seth?
I land about the same with you.
Great, good, around that ballpark.
Great, good. It can definitely stand with the others.
Okay. I mean, there's some people out there who think Wind Waker is better than Ocarina, but I'll let them have their opinion on that one. Anyway, I mean, I guess it depends what game you grew up with. I was born in '93, so I grew up with Ocarina. I was born in '94, so I grew up with Ocarina of Time first. There's many people who grew up with Wind Waker first as their Zelda game, so that might have a lot to do with it. But I just, from an objective point of view, I think Ocarina is still a better game. Putting my bias and rose-colored glasses aside, I just think, as a whole, I could think Ocarina of Time is still a better game.
Definitely.
So, getting to the story of Wind Waker, daughter gets kidnapped by a giant bird who's under Ganon's control. Ganon's henchman, essentially. Because got mistaken for Zelda, because Zelda has pointy ears and blonde hair. He goes up where she sits there. That's where you run into Ganondorf, and you find out you're the hero of the winds, and off you go to the story. Gameplay is your standard Zelda fare. Dungeon to dungeon. You have your dungeon. You have your preamp to the dungeon, then more preamble for the next dungeon, and then the dungeon. It's kind of the same formula as most Zelda games. So after that basic rundown of the game, we're going to get into my pros and cons of Wind Waker. So we'll start with the pros. Okay, I want to go ahead and give this game some praise where it deserves it. I feel like Wind Waker at times had very high Zelda moments for me, especially in some of the dungeons. The Zelda formula they use, there were certain times when I was in some of the dungeons, it like, this is high Zelda, this is Zelda at its best.
Like when the elements of a dungeon or a puzzle really click together.
Yeah, they meld together well together. They meld together very well. Even some of the puzzles I couldn't figure out right away. I got the kind of that eureka moment as Zelda. Dun, 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 they use that noise for a reason. It's supposed to be satisfying, and it is a satisfying noise, but or sound, I guess. But yeah, like I said, for example, I hate to keep doing this, but going back to Ocarina of Time, I just feel like the majority of Ocarina of Time is just, it's so well put together. You kind of get that eureka, high Zelda feel most of the game. It's very seldom you really get like, a low moment in Ocarina of Time. There are definitely low moments in this game, but also we'll get that too in the cons. Continuing on with the pros. Story-wise, I think it adds a good amount of stuff to the lore. With not original, but like, Hyrule being covered over by the ocean. It helps fill in a good part of the story as far as Zelda's lore is concerned. Back to the actual gameplay. I would say it had mostly good dungeons. I want to say maybe there's only like, I'm trying to think. Because I know the Wind Temple was giving me a hard time. You can actually go look at that gameplay of the Wind Temple. I was having a real hard time with that temple. I was getting to the point where I was like, I stopped playing the game for like a week or two because I didn't like the Wind Temple too much. I think a lot of that had to do with me playing Wind Waker for too long, and I was just starting to get frustrated. I wanted to be done with the game, so I think I gained a negative bias toward the Wind Temple. Now that I go back and think about it, the Wind Temple is actually a good Zelda dungeon. It's not bad. It was me being irritated and wanting to move on with the game, not focusing on what I needed to do and where I needed to go. I was so focused on just trying to get through the dungeon. I didn't sit back and enjoy the dungeon for what it is. So, after saying that, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think there's really any bad dungeons in Wind Waker. They were either good to great dungeons. What's your opinion on that?
I would agree. I think a lot of the dungeons, if you threw those dungeons into another game, I feel like it would fit in perfectly. The dungeons definitely followed the formula, and when you follow that formula, you get a good dungeon or a great dungeon.
Yeah.
They followed a formula to the T, and it paid off handsomely.
And I will say, on to the next point, this kind of links in with the dungeons. There were some creative puzzles in some of that, like, again, they gave you that eureka moment that Zelda gives you, and I just, like I said, especially the Earth Temple, for some reason, there was like multiple rooms in the Earth Temple. If you go back and watch my video, I was struggling really hard with, because I could not figure out the puzzle. When the puzzle was, the answer to the puzzle was literally right in front of me, and I for some reason, I wasn't using my brain properly. I wasn't going through all my items and checking every single item to see what I could do with it. For example, here's another good example. Through the entire game, I kid you not, through the entire game, for some reason, there are some spots where I could not just simply look up where I was and use a grappling hook on a thing that, like a pole or something, to let you jump across. There's too many times in that game where the solution was literally right in front of my face, above my head. I just didn't look above my head. I went around the entire room, around the entire area, and I could not figure out how to get to the other side, when it was just simple to throw the grappling hook and jump across, because I didn't see the pole. Wind Waker had absolutely wonderful puzzles, and really tough puzzles sometimes, with simple solutions. For some reason, I didn't use my own brain and use all my items. For the most part, I thought I had great characters when the characters were actually used. I mean, if you really play the game just straight through without doing any side quests, unless ones you have to do, I mean, they really don't use a lot of characters in the game as, like, story filler or whatever else. The pirates are there for comic relief, for most part, but they're like kind of here and then they're gone. The pirates are there at the beginning of the game, and then you never really see them again, unless you hunt them down yourself. So the characters they use, they're written great. It's just they don't really get used too much. And then last thing is it also had great bosses. Some top tier Zelda bosses in this game.
Fun fact: did you know that the bosses for the Earth Temple and the Wind Temple got swapped last second?
They did?
Yeah, think about it. The Earth Temple. It would have been, in my opinion, more fitting to fight to fight the one from the Wind Temple, because the one from the Wind Temple, the whole arena was basically sand.
Yeah, okay, I guess it makes sense. Earth Temple, Yeah.
And you use wind and stuff to beat the giant Poe.
Yeah, good point.
The bosses were swapped last second. I don't know what the reason was for it, but
Well, I think the reason for it was because the giant Poe, in that temple, there were Poes in that temple.
yeah, the temple is pretty much the theme is pretty much like Tombs Undead.
So that's probably why they decided, you know what, this is a giant Poe. Let's put it in the actual dungeon where its familiar enemies are, I think it probably made a little more sense than the theming.
Yeah.
Because I think it would have been kind of weird to play the whole Earth Temple and then at the end of there's a Poe boss. Like, I didn't learn anything about this Poe boss in the entire temple. When you're in the Wind Temple, you're fighting Poes. No, in the Earth Temple, you're fighting Poes the entire time. So when you get to the boss, like, okay, I know how to beat this guy. Shine light on him and throw him. The light being the main thing to do.
Yeah.
All right, now on to the cons. I feel like there's way too much padding in this game. Way too much. Especially if you don't have especially if you don't get the Ballad of Gales. Because if you don't get the Ballad of Gales, you are sailing from point to point to point to point for minutes on end, wasting time. And then on top of that, I think the worst example of padding in this game was the right end of the game. I did not like the fact they had you refight the 4 bosses as part of Ganon's Tower again.
I was also not a huge fan of that.
Like, and plus it's in black and white. I'm like, no. I just want some more dungeon. I don't want to fight these 4 bosses again. Just give me some more dungeon. Nope. I thought that was a horrible padding. That was completely unnecessary. And then the second worst example of the padding was the Wind Temple and Earth Temple. The preamble for both those temples was horrible. You talk to the fish. If you go to this island, 5 spaces south and 2 spaces east or west, I don't remember exactly what it was, you'll find the island for this item. But in order to get that item, you need an item from a different area to get to that island. That's on a different island. And he's literally sending you on a goose chase. If you don't have the Battle of Gales, you are literally going cross-map for most of those items.
Yeah.
I thought that was really bad. Especially if... We'll get to that, why that's extremely bad here in a moment. I felt like in this game there were spots where the game didn't give you clear direction as to where you need to go next. Or at least push you in the direction. Give you a hint or something. Because here's a good example of a again, I'm going to use Ocarina of Time as an example. Ocarina of Time, when you go to Darunia, right? In the Goron Goron village, Goron City, excuse me. You go talk to him. He says he's angry, but the goes and he won't talk to you. The only way you get him to talk to you is playing Saria's song. Unfortunately, most people, when they play Ocarina of Time for the first time, they don't know you have to go after you speak to Impa. The best thing is to go to Lost Woods first before you go to Kakariko Village, so you can get Saria's song first, so you have it for Darunia. But most people, they'll go because Impa will point you the direction of, hey, you should go to Kakariko next to go to Death Mountain. And that's where most people go. They go to Kakariko Village, and then, by the time you get to Kakariko Village, Navi tells you, hey, maybe we should let Saria know we're saving the world. But you don't think anything of it. You read it like, I'll tell her later. You continue on with your adventure.
Another thing to remember is that there is that shortcut. That shortcut between
Yeah.
That might have been why they put that there. The shortcut between Goron City and the Lost Woods.
Yeah, but to my knowledge, you don't get bumps until you beat the Dongo's Cavern.
I think you can run a bomb flower far enough to open it.
You can? Okay. I didn't know that. But I guess if you do some digging, you might be able to find out how to like
oh wait. No, because you have to get the bracelet. I think you have to get the bracelet from Darunia to be able to pick up bomb flowers.
Exactly. And I don't know if there's a torch close enough to light a stick and light the bombs on fire.
I don't think I'm not sure actually.
But still stands that the game, if you don't listen to Navi, when she tells you, that's your fault. Navi gave you a hint, hey, go talk to Saria. You need to go talk to Saria first. She didn't say first, but like she says you need to go talk to Saria. And because you didn't, that was your fault. Navi reminds you over and over again that you need to do this until you actually go do it. So that's the game nudging you in the correct direction. You get to Darunia, it's not working, you don't know what to do. Navi's like, hey, maybe you should go talk to Saria. Okay, you know what, there's nothing I can do here, let me go talk to Saria. You get the song, and then you come back, and then you figure out you can play the song for him, and then you got it. That's the Ocarina of Time nudging you in the right direction without explicitly telling you this is what you need to do. It's not necessary, but the Ballad of Gales being optional, I think was a mistake. You can beat the game without the Ballad of Gales. It would just be a horrible slog. And the fact that you don't even have to go after the frog thing's brother in the Twister, you don't have to.
I feel like the issue is the game doesn't nudge you in that direction enough.
Yeah, like he tells you, hey, if you find my brother, kick his butt for me. Well, I don't feel like it. You know what I mean? You can avoid him altogether if you want to. If he traps you in his Twister, all you do is play the. You can't play a song because you can't get away. You don't have the Gales, but he sucks you up and then whatever. I played the entire game up to that point where I had to go back and forth, and actually had to Google, is there fast travel in this game? And that's when I found out about Gales, and you had to get him from the Cloud guy's brother. I'm like, why didn't the game tell me this? The game told me he existed, but they didn't give me any reason or incentive or anything to go fight him. I can just avoid him. I don't want to fight him. I don't think he's going to give me anything. Now, if the frog guy said, "What? Hey, be my brother for you. Be my brother for me. He should give you something that'll help you on your adventure." I might have been a little more enticed. But he didn't say anything like that. He just said, if you find him, beat him up for me. That's all he said. And I felt that like they needed to make the Battle of Gales a forced song you need to learn. I don't think they should have made it optional. And then, if you have this next con, lots of downtime sailing. Especially if you don't have the Battle of Gales.
Which I don't think you can get until you get the bow, which I don't think you get until the Tower of Gods.
Exactly.
So, the first quarter of the game, you're stuck fast traveling, but thankfully, in the trips that you're making in that time, they're not horrible.
Yeah, they're not. They're doable.
In fact, the trip from Windfall to Outset was supposed to be storytelling a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, Ganondorf has cursed the sea to basically make it so the sun never rises. That's supposed to set the tone for you. Like, this game's not messing around anymore.
Yeah.
Like, the stakes are getting real.
Yeah. real quick, before I forget, I want to go back to the spots where the game doesn't tell you where to go. The other example I want to give out before I forget it was after you beat the Wind Temple, right? Or Earth Temple. I think you beat them in any order. After you're done the 2 temples, the Red King of Red Lions will tell you, okay, now we gotta go find the Triforce shards, right? He doesn't tell you how to start the quest. There's nowhere in the game that I remember where it tells you how to stop the Triforce quest. You have to go release Tingle from the prison, but nowhere in the game is it. Does it say, hey, maybe you should go save this guy that's in prison? Maybe he'll help you. To my knowledge, I don't think there's anywhere in the game where it said you had to go save Tingle from jail. That's how you start the Triforce quest. Because then he gives you the incredible map to find the charts and to find the shards themselves. Again, one of those things I literally had to look up on my own because I didn't know how to start the quest. Because the game didn't tell me or lead me in that direction. It's something I had to find out. Again, just bad, I don't want my handheld, but at least give me a push. Some semblance of where I need to go.
I also feel like some of the puzzles in some of the dungeons, the objective could have been spelled out a little bit better.
Yes.
Especially with that segment you talked about with the flags.
Yeah.
I feel like they could have, had some of the light
shining behind it?
A little bit behind it. Kind of like when you put a flashlight behind a blanket.
Yeah. It's completely dark.
I feel like it's completely dark, I don't see any light. I think if they did it something like that, might have spelled out the puzzle a little better.
Yeah.
While not being too obvious.
Yeah. Yeah, so I do have that as a con in here. Some of the puzzles are obtuse, I think. Not too many of them, but some of them were pretty obtuse. That one being an example. But I think, again, a lot of the puzzles, I felt were me just being stupid. Just not looking at all my items and trying to use each item, in my brain, hey, how can I use this item in this room? Will this help me? Yes, and solve the puzzle. But that example of the light not being behind, giving you a hint as to what you need to do in that room, I think that's a good idea. That's a good con. A good example of not telling you exactly, not nudging you in the right direction. Not hand holding, but just a little nudge. That's all I need. Okay, so we're going to go back to, okay, so this last thing I want to mention, I think this is my last con. I thought the Tingle map prices were ridiculous. Absurd. $3.98 to for him to read each Triforce chart for you.
I feel like with something like that, it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, it encourages you to use more mechanics of the game to find more money and to get a bigger wallet, but the draw to that is more padding.
Exactly. It just adds more padding. You when you get the cabana, there's lots of money in the cabana, on the island and in the cabana itself. Lots of money. All you have to do is spend the rubies for him to do some of the charts, go to the cabana, refill your rubies up, then go back to him. But again, that's more padding. Going back and forth for more money. It's just it doesn't work. Just give me the amount of rubies I need. Let me be able to carry 5,000 rubies so I can pay for each map in one sitting.
Or maybe they intended you to get one map, get one location, go to that location, and while you're there, gain a bunch of the money back, and then come back and do it again.
But still, that's again padding. That's terrible. That's horrible padding. That's horrible padding. If they actually would have did that, I think it's worse than the way I just mentioned, going to the cabana and getting more money. Because at least you use Battle of Gales. You go back and forth between each island.
Yeah.
That's worse. Especially when some of the charts in the Triforce, especially when some of the Triforce pieces are pretty close to each other. Now I like to just go to one square to the next square to the next square. I think there's like three Triforce shards that are literally right next to each other on the map. So you're better off just paying for all the shards at one shot and then go get the shards. Which that's exactly what it did.
Is it possible to find the shards without the chart?
I think there is, but there's no glowing spot if you don't have the charts.
Fair.
So you would have to know ahead of time where it is. Which, you're playing for your first time, you're not going to know that.
Okay, so I feel like now that we mentioned that, I want to ask the question: do you think the game is replayable?
For me, no. I might replay it like one more time, maybe see how fast, if I can beat it faster this time. But as far as like doing side quests and stuff, I don't really care to do it, just because sailing across the sea is just it's not fun. I feel like it's just more of a chore than anything. It's mind numbing. It's just boring. You're just literally you're sailing, and most of the enemies you come across while you're sailing are easy to dodge and avoid.
And despite how big and impressive they look, they all usually die in one hit.
Yeah. Those little shark things that come after you, like, every so often, they're so easy to dodge. It's not even funny. They jump, and then you just they jump to come at you. You just go the other direction. Go a little to the right, and they'll miss you. Go a little to the left, and they'll miss you. Go a little to the right, they'll miss you. It's not that difficult to dodge them. They're just more of a nuisance than anything. So, yeah, for me, I'm not up. If I were to play it again, I'd probably want to play the HD version, because I've heard they fixed a lot of stuff that was wrong with Wind Waker in that game, which I've seen they did. They really cut down the shards hunting.
They cut down on the shards price. If you go to the auctioning thing, you can get the swift sail.
Yeah, so you can sail faster. Yep.
Well, it's not going to sail faster. It's whichever direction you sail, the wind will get behind you.
Oh yeah, so yeah. I guess I didn't put this on the list, but the constant of having to pull the Wind Waker out to play a song to change the weather, to change the direction of the wind, I thought that was kind of bad, like at times.
But it's kind of like
overuse of the baton a little bit.
It's overuse, but I feel like with the swift sail, it kind of makes the Wind Waker a little bit. It makes that song a little obsolete.
Yes, which I'm okay with.
I mean, there are some moments in the game where you need the wind to turn a direction, and you're not going to be on the King of Red Lions to do that.
Yeah.
Like when you're trying to fly from the Deku Forest to the dungeon.
Yep, I knew exactly what example you were going to use. That's right. Yep. It's kind of like I felt like the Wind Waker is more of like the Iron Boot situation from Ocarina of Time. You have to pause button, put the boots on, unpause, pause again, take them back off, unpause. It was kind of the same thing like with the Wind Waker.
Do you like the system where the Iron Boots were an item? You didn't have to pause it, go in, put them on, go back in, take them off. It was an item. It was in your. Yeah,
I much prefer that.
Just slip on, slip off.
Yeah, exactly. I much prefer that. That's the Iron Boots are the really only negative thing about Ocarina of Time, but the rest of the game is so perfect in my eyes. I was okay with the Iron Boots being a little annoying.
A small scrape on an otherwise perfect game.
Yeah. So that's all my cons for Wind Waker. Difficulty, I would say the game it kind of has a medium difficulty to it because some of the flaws of the game not telling you exactly what you need to do. You kind of have to have some parts a little bit bigger of a brain. For the most part, I would say it's kind of like normal difficulty. It's not that difficult. As far as a verdict is concerned, I got my position for Wind Waker. Wind Waker would be 54. So Wind Waker would officially on my ranking will be 54. So, thanks for watching my review of The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and stay square. Where can they find you, Seth?
You can find me at you can find me on YouTube as well, Pacman9371. You can put it in the description or something.
Will do. Again, share and stay square.
And see you on the other side.